Christian Wolf's story begins in his childhood, where he is diagnosed with a high-functioning form of autism at Harbour Neuroscience, a specialized facility dedicated to helping children with developmental conditions. It is here that he first encounters Justine, the nonverbal daughter of the facility's lead doctor. Despite her inability to speak, Justine forms a silent but profound connection with Chris, a bond that is tragically cut short when Chris's father, a hardened US Army psychological operations officer, intervenes. Refusing the doctor's recommendation for Chris to remain in a controlled, sensory-friendly environment, his father insists that his son must learn to endure and overcome the challenges of his condition. He fears that without such resilience, Chris would be vulnerable to exploitation in a world that often preys on the weak. Chris's mother, overwhelmed by the emotional and physical demands of raising a neurodivergent child, eventually abandons the family, leaving Chris and his younger brother Braxton in the sole care of their father. Determined to prepare his sons for the harsh realities of life, their father implements a rigorous regimen of military discipline, survival tactics, and martial arts training, particularly in pencak silat, an Indonesian fighting style. This brutal upbringing is designed to teach the boys to withstand pain, control their emotions, and defend themselves in any situation. While Braxton struggles under the weight of their father's expectations, Chris thrives, honing his natural mathematical genius and combat skills. Over time, Chris develops a strict adherence to rules and routine, which becomes both a strength and a source of isolation. His only solace lies in numbers, which he finds calming and logical, and he begins to cultivate a strong moral code, refusing to tolerate injustice or corruption. Despite his father's harsh methods, Chris grows into a highly disciplined individual, shaped by his father's belief in operating outside the law while adhering to his own sense of right and wrong. Years later, Chris emerges as a highly skilled forensic accountant operating under the alias Christian Wolf out of a modest strip mall office in Plainfield, Illinois. To the outside world, he appears unassuming, but his true expertise lies in uncovering financial fraud for some of the world's most dangerous criminal organizations, including arms dealers, drug cartels, and terrorist networks. His work is facilitated by an unseen handler known only as The Voice, a mysterious woman who communicates with him via encrypted channels and affectionately calls him Dreamboat. Despite his meticulous nature and unparalleled skill, Chris continues to grapple with sensory overload, which he manages through extreme rituals such as exposing himself to loud music and flashing lights to desensitize his nervous system. Meanwhile, Ray King, the director of the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, is determined to uncover the identity of the enigmatic accountant who has been aiding criminal enterprises. Facing imminent retirement, King coerces Treasury Department analyst Marybeth Medina into assisting him in his investigation. Medina, an ambitious and intelligent young woman, is reluctant to participate but is forced to comply when King threatens to expose her own undisclosed criminal past. As Medina delves deeper into the case, she uncovers a trail of financial transactions and violent incidents linked to the accountant. One key piece of evidence is a surveillance recording from the aftermath of a massacre in which Chris single-handedly eliminated 9 members of the Gambino crime family. Analyzing the audio, Medina isolates Chris's voice and notes that he mutters the nursery rhyme Solomon Grundy, a coping mechanism he developed as a child. By cross-referencing his aliases, all derived from the names of famous mathematicians, Medina identifies his current persona as Christian Wolf and locates his base of operations in Illinois. Unaware that he is being hunted, Chris is hired by Lamar Blackburn, the CEO of Living Robotics, a cutting-edge prosthetics company. The company's in-house accountant, Dana Cummings, has discovered a financial discrepancy, and Chris is brought in to audit the books. Over the course of his investigation, Chris meticulously examines years of financial records and uncovers an elaborate embezzlement scheme in which over $61 million has been siphoned from the company. As Chris gets closer to the truth, the company's CFO, Ed Chilton, is coerced by a ruthless hitman into committing suicide via insulin overdose. Lamar abruptly dismisses Chris, claiming that Chilton was the embezzler and took his own life out of guilt. This sudden conclusion frustrates Chris, as it leaves his audit incomplete, an outcome that conflicts with his obsessive need for closure. Medina's investigation into Chris's past reveals more about his complex history. She learns that Chris was incarcerated at Leavenworth Military Prison following a violent altercation at his estranged mother's funeral, during which his father was killed while defending him. During his imprisonment, Chris shared a cell with Francis Silverberg, a high-ranking accountant for the Gambino crime family who had turned FBI informant. Silverberg, recognizing Chris's mathematical genius, mentored him in forensic accounting, teaching him how to launder money, evade detection, and navigate the criminal underworld. King reveals to Medina that Silverberg's cooperation with the FBI ended tragically when he was brutally murdered by the Gambinos. King, who had been surveilling the crime family at the time, was shocked when Chris appeared at the scene and exacted lethal revenge on Silverberg's killers. Instead of eliminating King, Chris spared his life after cryptically asking him if he was a good father. Following this encounter, King began receiving anonymous tips from The Voice, leading to numerous high-profile arrests. Now, as King nears retirement, he intends to pass this clandestine arrangement on to Medina. As Chris continues his investigation into living robotics, he realizes that Dana's life is in danger and rushes to protect her. A team of assassins ambushes him, but Chris eliminates them with surgical precision, extracting from the last surviving hitman that Dana is the next target. Chris takes Dana to his secret storage unit, which houses an Airstream Pan America trailer filled with an arsenal of weapons, stacks of cash, gold bars, and priceless artwork, including an original Jackson Pollock painting. As they converse, Dana is both fascinated and unnerved by Chris's peculiar behavior and extraordinary intelligence. Through their discussion, Chris pieces together the embezzlement scheme, realizing that it follows the pattern of Crazy Eddie fraud, where stolen money is funneled back into the company to artificially inflate its value in preparation for an initial public offering. When Chris goes to confront Rita Blackburn, Lamar's sister and business partner, he finds her murdered, confirming that Lamar is behind the scheme and has been eliminating anyone who gets too close to the truth. Determined to settle the score, Chris infiltrates Lamar's heavily fortified mansion, where he is met by a team of elite mercenaries led by a highly skilled hitman. A brutal and intense firefight ensues, during which Chris methodically takes down Lamar's guards. As the battle rages on, the hitman recognizes Chris's use of the Solomon Grundy nursery rhyme and is shocked to realize that Chris is his long-lost brother, Braxton. The two siblings, now on opposite sides of the conflict, engage in a brutal hand-to-hand fight. Braxton, harboring deep resentment towards Chris for his years of absence and for their father's death, unleashes his pent-up anger. However, their fight is interrupted by Lamar, who arrogantly dismisses their emotional struggle and attempts to reassert control. Without hesitation, Chris coldly shoots Lamar, bringing the battle to an abrupt end. With the confrontation over, Chris and Braxton share a tense but understanding moment. Chris, now seeing the emotional turmoil in his brother, expresses a desire to reconnect, promising to find him in a week. Braxton, though still conflicted, accepts this olive branch before they part ways. In the aftermath, Medina is officially contacted by The Voice, revealing that it is none other than Justine, the mute girl Chris met at Harbor Neuroscience as a child. Justine, having grown into a technological genius, has been orchestrating Chris's assignments from behind the scenes, using his bookkeeping profits to fund the facility that once cared for him. Meanwhile, Dana receives an unexpected package. Inside is the Jackson Pollock painting she had admired in Chris's trailer, a silent but profound token of gratitude from the elusive accountant. As Chris drives away with his Airstream in tow, he vanishes once again into the shadows, ready for his next mission. His journey is far from over, and the world remains unaware of the enigmatic figure who walks the line between justice and vengeance, guided by his own unyielding moral code.